Hello again, everybody. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to do an oil painting, and it's a mountain scene that I picked up off a Facebook page. I need to explain a little bit of that to you because I kind of got it erroneously, and I embarrassed the gal on Facebook, and I really apologize to her. Her name is Karen-Smith Kreuger, and she posted a photo on Facebook page called Line and Wash Watercolor, which I just became a member of, and she actually asked people to paint it with her. So I took the photo and just didn't ask her to let me paint it on my oil painting channel, which, you know, I've given you lectures before about using other people's photos and how important it is to make sure that you don't take someone else's work and claim it as your own. And so I got her embarrassed on her own channel there because I used this photo, and I really apologize to her, and I hope that it wasn't too much of an anguish for her. But the photo that you've seen here is a scene from near Death Valley, between Death Valley, California and Beatty, Nevada, and Karen-Smith Kreuger is the photographer. And so we're going to try to do it in oils today in my usual Bob Ross technique, as you watched me do before. And so I want to get started on that. You see the photo up here. I have a grid on it, and I have a value map that I've created on Photoshop, which I do for most of my paintings. And I've got another little technique I want to show you, a way to maybe keep the sketch on a Bob Ross type painting where you put liquid white over the entire canvas and you destroy your any sketch that you may have. So I found a technique in the last week where this may help. I'm going to test it today, and I'll show you what experience I have with that. So without any more about that, let me go over to the computer and I'll show you what I did with the photograph that Karen so willingly let me use, and we'll talk about it and what I did to sort of crop it and change it slightly, and then I'll come back over and we'll start going through the paints and the brushes, and we'll get painting. Hold on. Okay, I'm over here on my computer now, and I'm showing you the original photo that Karen-Smith Kreuger took. It's a rectangular, or not rectangular, it's square. And so as you know, with my painting, I always paint on 11 by 14 canvas here, so I needed to crop it down slightly to get it to fit my video format, which I did. This is the cropped version. I took a little bit off the bottom and took some out of the sky. It had a large sky on it, very large sky. And so I wanted to, didn't want to destroy that, or I wanted to use it. And I see Lindy from Cape Town, South Africa is joining us. Thank you, Lindy. Good to see you again here. So this is the scene that we'll be painting. I'm going to try to turn it into a little more spring type scene, I guess I would call it. I'll put some flowers maybe in the foreground here and that sort of thing. This is sort of a desert area, I believe, based on where she told me it was from. And so I'll try to lighten it up a little bit, at least make it a little more springy. Here's the grid. You know, I always go out to griddrawingtool.com and I upload my images, and I put a 4x5 grid on my photograph and download that from that free website. And so it lets me lay things out in the nice square pattern here that you always see. And then you also have seen me do the value map, where I try to get this, whatever painting I'm doing, whether it's watercolor, oils, or whatever, I try to get it into 3 values, maybe 4, but usually 3. So I have a light, medium, and dark value, and I've sort of used the areas where the flowers are, where the trees are, where the shadows are, and then some of the darker areas of the mountains. So I think I have a nice layout here that looks a little bit like a puzzle, which is what you want to try to do with your value maps. You want to try to make abstract shapes all interlinked together and fit together like they were a puzzle. So that's what I have here. And then I also did a sketch of it here. The sketch is there. It's on my website. These, the grid, the value map, and the sketch are all on my website for you to download and use those as a sketching tool to help you, so you can get going on it and not have to worry about being able to draw something or sketch something. So that's all I wanted to show you here on the computer. I'm going to go back now to my easel. We'll go through the brushes and paints, and we'll get started. Hold on. Okay, I'm back here at my easel now, and I'm going to go through the brushes and paints, and we'll get started on this. Here's my palette. Typically these are my Bob Ross paints. I have Bob Ross brushes, and I'll go through the brushes here first. I have a couple of 2-inch brushes. I probably won't use those on my 11 by 14 canvas. They're really almost too big. I have a 1-inch blender. I have a couple of these big half-round brushes that Bob Ross used, and those might be good for some of the shrubbery and bushes in the foreground. I have a filbert here that I may or may not use. I have some of my fan brushes that I may use, some of those. A couple of script liners here that I will use for some of the fine details. And then I have my trusty palette knife that I'll use for some of the mountains. So that's the brushes. The paints are, I will go around the palette and tell you what they are. I actually have it written on there so you can see it hopefully on my Gray Matters palette sheet that's attached to a glass underpinning here. So titanium white, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, alizarin crimson, sap green, cad yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red. And I have one Grumbacher color called ultraviolet, which I add to my palette just because I'm too lazy to mix that ultraviolet color with the Bob Ross standard paints. So that's the paints. I also have my liquid white, which you know I usually put on. And the thing you've heard me gripe before about the Bob Ross technique, when you put your liquid white, cover your canvas with the liquid white, it basically destroys any type of a sketch that you may have. So what I've done now, based on I still watch other artists paint, and I picked up an artist from New Jersey this week that I followed his painting. He paints commissioned portraits, a very good portrait artist, but I watched him, and he also has classes. His name is Kevin Murphy. He runs a Facebook page called The Art Academy, and he also has online classes, and he has in-person classes if you want to learn to paint realistic portraits and follow his procedure. But one of the techniques I learned, you see I have a light sketch on here, and it basically, when I put the liquid white over it, whatever I have on here, a pencil or however I do it, it usually destroys it and I lose the sketch. But on this one I put the sketch on, and then a day ago I put on some glazing medium, Liquitex acrylic glazing medium. And this is clear so you can see through it, but it also coats the pencil marks that are on here, and this will work really better for a larger type canvas or one with more detail. I don't have a lot of detail in here, but at least if I need to find out where this mountain is right here, I can actually be able to wipe that paint off, the white paint off, and be able to find my mark here, as opposed to trying to just use it with the grid method or whatever I use. So I wanted to show you that because that's kind of a nice little technique I found that I figured out how to do that. All right, so let's get set up here for our palette, and we'll have the palette on the page, and we got the canvas. I think you can see that readily, so I hope there. I have since I'm broadcasting this, you all are watching me live, and you guys can put stuff in my chat window. I have a computer up here by my left elbow. I see several of you are logging in. Somebody from Alabama. Hello, Diane. Big Blues guy. Hi. Okay, Lindy, glad to see you here. You can only stay an hour. Well, hopefully I'll be done in an hour. I don't know, sometimes. A lot of you are probably working from home, and I always stay at home. This is my studio, so I'm not really going out anyway. So I hope you can sit back and relax and just enjoy something artistic for a while and get your mind off of current events and what's going on in the world around us. So let me put on some liquid white here. I'm going to use my 1-inch brush, and we'll just coat this thing with a nice thin coat of liquid white, and you won't be able to see it other than you'll probably see the sketch disappear. So as it disappears, the thing that's good about this, since I have an acrylic undercoat here, You notice the pencil marks are not blurring, they're not moving around. It's not putting graphite into my brush like it would normally do if I just did pencil on top of canvas. So that's a nice technique that I'm happy to share with you, and I found it on another artist. I try to bring you things I learn when I watch other people's videos, and I'm constantly trying to learn myself. And I certainly am not trying to steal anybody's photograph or steal anybody's work, and I don't know how many times I can apologize, but I certainly want to thank Karen-Smith Kreuger for letting me use her beautiful photo for this painting. Okay, so I have this thin coat of liquid white on here now, and you can barely see, there's a few spots here I can barely see some of the pencil marks underneath, but the pencil marks are not blurred, and it didn't add any graphite to the paint. And so I see Andy Campbell, you're in Palm Desert, California. Well, this is near where you are. I hope I can do this thing justice. Since I've never been there. I'm going to take a paper towel and just do lightly a white scrape across here just to make sure I don't have too much liquid white. One of the things that people do wrong, I believe, in trying to follow this wet on wet oil painting technique is they put too much liquid white on, and then they end up getting a mess in their brushes, and they have trouble getting mud on their final painting here. So all right, so that's the background, that's the underlayment, I guess. And if you can see, I can actually see where the mountains start here. I still see that. If I take that liquid white off, I can see that mark right through the liquid white. So that's good. All right, so let's start on the sky. I'm going to get just some white and a little bit of my blue. I might change the colors slightly to make it look slightly more springy than it is, but I don't want to destroy the mood of the painting. So I'm mixing up right on top of this liquid white I had on my big brush here. And I'm going to start up here. That's really too much blue. So I'll go pick up some midnight black. I'm not washing out my brush. I'm just layering it on top. Put just a little blue layer on top here like this. Pick up some ultraviolet, and we'll throw a little ultraviolet in there. Sort of tone that down a little bit. Maybe a little more midnight black. Tone it down in some areas. Okay, bring it down here. I don't wash out my brush a whole lot, if you may remember. As you've watched me before, I do a lot of mixing of paints on the brush as I paint. And if I get too much dark paint in a certain area of the painting, I'll use either the liquid white that's in the brush, or I'll go add some more lighter color to lighten it up. Now, I think I'm coming inside over the mountains right here, and I know I'm getting close to the top of this mountain. I can see it very well. I can see the light sketch underneath there. Again, I put a thin coat, a very thin coat of liquid white on here. And so I want this to get a little more dark in this area here. I want to show those clouds. I want to have some white. It's a little blue over here. A little dark. I'm going to leave some nice bright areas there so I can have some clouds there. This is a little grayed down. So we might have some people from the Line and Wash watercolor group watching this oil painting demonstration today, since I've had several discussions on that page, and I want to thank you guys for watching. I do watercolors as well. I like to do Line and Wash, but I'm not very good at it. I have a couple of mediocre Line and Wash videos on here from my watercolor paintings, and so you might want to check those out and see how good or bad I did, and let me know. I have about 200 and some videos on this channel. Half of them are watercolor and half are oils. So I would like to get your feedback. So please check that out while you're watching, and if you're stuck at home and can't do much else, I can bore you with my oil paintings and watercolor paintings as much as the next guy, and maybe less than some. I'm going to put some more white in here. I want to get some just titanium white, pop it in here, get this nice white band of clouds floating across in this area. And it comes down. There's a lot of white right over this mountain area here, where the mountain is, right in here. Another technique I learned watching this portrait painter. He takes a long time to make paintings. I've watched him. He's been working on one commissioned painting for probably 20 hours already, and he's recorded it on Facebook. And if you go to that Facebook page called the Art Painter, what did I say it was? The Art Academy. The Art Academy. If you go to that Facebook page, you will see Kevin doing this painting. He started this. It's a true commission portrait he's working on, and he is showing you the full step-by-step, a lot of detail, a lot of time. The first time I watched him, he did a 5-hour video without stopping, and it was quite amazing to see how that painting ended up after 5 hours. I was really amazed. I try to do my paintings like an hour, and I don't think I could stand here and do 5 hours. I'm too old for that. But anyway, this is the sky. Now, I may want to put a few more tones in there, but I think it's pretty good. It looks like that I have some probably more clouds in here than was in the original photo. The original photo, they were kind of just horizontally laying out there. So I try to change that up just a little. I think some more white, some more titanium in this area. I want these clouds to kind of stand out here. The other thing I was starting to talk about was one of the techniques he uses when he does his first pass of the painting. He does a painting in about 4 passes, and he spends about 10 hours on each pass. But he uses a brush to get some of these brush marks out. You know, Bob Ross would always take a big blender like this, and he'd just do that swooping across like that, and sort of blend everything together. Kevin uses a really fine brush like this. This is really a watercolor brush, a fan brush, and it's got really soft, not hardly bristles, but he will take them and he'll just feather these edges like this. It takes out some of the big globs of paint that you probably can't even see because you're getting it via camera. But as it does that, it makes a very smooth surface, and it really feathers those clouds in. And when I see that, I need some more white paint here in some areas. I want to lighten up this area, particularly here, right through here, like this. So I'm just sort of dabbing in some more paint to lighten these areas up. And I'll use this really watercolor fan brush to soften them. Look what you get when you do that. It really may be hard for you to see, I don't know. But it's a very light, soft touch that just leaves some really nice looking clouds in there. Okay, that's kind of the soft, it is a soft sky. Not a lot of threatening clouds in there or anything. So I'm going to stop with that, and we'll move on. All right, so that's the technique. So now my clouds, or my mountains rather, start right here. This back mountain is here. I'm going to get a gray color, and this color will be darker than the mountain needs to look. I'm just going to put it in here So you can see where this part of the mountain is, and it comes down like this. And see, I have a lot of liquid white in this brush, so and there's liquid white on the canvas, of course. So you can see how this mountain sort of comes down like that. There's another one back here in this area. Back here, I'm going to put just a touch of blue in it, maybe violet in it. Atmospheric perspective, as the mountains go further in the distance, they turn more blue and more purple. So we want that to be either bluish or purplish back there. A little more purple in it here. Even though the photograph may show that it's all about the same gray, which it does, try to give some depth by changing the color. More violet there. So now I'm using artistic license. I'm not following the photograph exactly in terms of its color palette. I'm just making some smooth mountains in the distance. We're going to come back and lay some more colors over that, and I want to try to add some definition to them, put little sharper edges on them, and then add some shadows and bring it down to this area here. We've got another mountain that comes out this way and down, and then there's some darker areas here below that need to be probably a couple values darker, like right in here. So what happens here with the color change, I'm giving you some more depth, and the depth is what shows the different layers of mountains. This is going to go there, and it's going to turn brown over there. Okay, so that's a start with those. And oh, Lindy, that's a good idea. Glad I gave you a tip there. It really makes those things really feather out very nicely when you use that fan brush. I was really surprised to see him using it. I don't know if he used a watercolor brush or not, but that's the only brushes I had that had fans on them and had that real soft texture bristles on it. I think those might be bristles, but I'm not sure what kind of bristles those are. Okay, so let's look at that now. Let's see if we can maybe, I'm just going to use my palette knife and see if I can start putting in a few of the mountains in the back here. See if we can come down and make a bit of a... These mountains are rounded on top pretty much, but by using the knife, you can see how I can manipulate that to give it some shadows. And this is probably too dark right there, but I can always come back and lighten that up by putting a lighter color over it, which is what I'll do. This is sort of the darkest color I want here, and I'm going to come back and I'll lighten it up with putting some other colors on top of it. I'm just using pretty much pure midnight black here for most of this. Do the same on this little mountain range here. And we'll pull it down. This mountain here is in front of the one behind it, so I want to make sure I have a sharp edge. That's how you can tell the difference in these, is if I have a sharp edge here and kind of runs into the shadow of this mountain over here. Okay. We can put some, maybe put some mist or something in there. Hello, Carolina from Brazil. Welcome. Glad you're here. Okay, another, that's way too dark. But we don't worry about that. We'll fix it. I'll even show you how. and this is sort of grayed out over this way. So it probably helps the composition if you have a little bit of something on the edges to kind of pull the eye in, so that you don't just run off the canvas and look. We're trying to put some scene that I'm not sure how many miles this thing is, but it's certainly a lot of miles. When you take a photograph like this, you're photographing a lot of distance, and so when you do that, you're trying to put that distance on a 11 by 14 canvas, and that really takes some doing, because you have to make abstract shapes, you have to maybe change some of the colors, you have to change some of the textures, some of the values, so that they don't match exactly what's in the photograph. So I'm just sort of letting the paint sort of dictate to me now what it needs, and I want to make sure that I have them sort of lined up, in this one in front, that one next, and going back in space. That's what I'm trying to do, to make sure I have these edges here, so that I can tell you that is behind or in front of the one behind it. Okay, these are just going to mix together over there. All right. And I probably could put a little more white in there. I'm trying to get, for those of you who don't follow oil painting or don't know about Bob Ross, when he would use this big fan brush, he always put a little roll of paint on the tip. I don't know if you can see that. And that tip is what I'm coming off. When I touch it, I got the knife laying down like this. I don't have it like this. I have it laying down almost right on the canvas. And it will just scrape off enough of that white paint to give you those rough textures that look like snow. It's a very neat technique. I'm sure he learned it from Bill Alexander, maybe, but he certainly developed his painting style from Bill Alexander, but he also marketed it and I think he got a lot more notoriety than Bill Alexander, but they both had the same wet on wet type of painting style, where they put an underpainting of a liquid white. I think Bill Alexander called it magic white, and Bob Ross renamed it liquid white and trademarked it, and I think there was some fallout between the two of them, but I don't know for sure. I just kind of read different excerpts from the two when Bob Ross was making his making a lot of videos and getting a lot of attention. Okay, so in this area we've got some of this darker color here. I'll make it look a little more shadowy if I can, because it is a shadow in here that's kind of working with the this is the side of the mountain, and it's all connected, but this is the shadow part of it. Okay, I have to start turning this brown here shortly. The black is almost too strong now. I need to start pulling in some of my brownish color, which I think I'll start doing now. I might as well keep using my knife here. Pick up a few colors to lighten this up. Get me some sort of a brownish color. Maybe I could use some ochre in it. I don't know. It starts turning brownish ochre when it gets down here in the foreground. See what this looks like. We'll just put some on there and see what it looks like. A big glob of paint, he says. It's almost too much, but it is about that value. Color might be off slightly, but flip that out of the way. And I want it to, it has to merge, it has to join with the, has to have some of the same colors in it from behind it. So I want to get some of that gray color in here so we don't have a disconnected painting. I want to see these colors show up. I want some of the colors from below to maybe show up above in some areas. It's about harmony. It's about making these things look like these mountains really sort of fit together. Pick up a little gray, bring it in, a little of my purple, come in here, put it a little down like that. If I put this color in these mountains below, you will see, it will help you realize it's all part of the same painting. It's not a separate set of range of mountains. Okay, what we got here? Let's take some more of this over here. Sort of starts changing the color a bit, even darker. I need some, maybe some alizarin. Let's try some alizarin right in here. Too much. I may get my brush out and start trying to fine tune some of this to help it blend together a little bit. I'm going to use probably my fan brush, and we'll just sort of pull these together, and this is sort of the other part of the mountain, goes this way. And the colors, I'm trying to get this to look like there's another, this has a little red in it, I see over there. Putting more color in it maybe in these mountains than is in the original, but we can adjust that and fine tune that. May not be able to do it in an hour, but we will certainly be able to pull these things together. These come down and sort of make another sort of a plateau back here. It looks like there's actually some roads or something running back here. I'm not sure what is behind this foreground part, but I think if I get these colors in each area, get some of this red and this brown and these colors up here in the mountains, you'll start seeing these things start coming together. Even though in the photograph you may not see those colors, but I want them to reflect. I want them to be in both sides of the painting. I don't want this to be just a one color, or if I have two distinct colors like this, which are pretty distinct, I'm going to have, it's going to look like I've got really two paintings, one at the top and one at the bottom, and I don't want that. I want this to really run together. I want the best way to do that's with sort of mixing your colors and getting the color that's in the top in the bottom and the color that's in the bottom in the top. So we'll see how that looks here now. I'm turning around looking at a monitor I have here behind me that shows me the what you're looking at, hopefully, and it should hopefully indicate the colors I'm looking for here, and it should. So this is a set of mountains. There's another, I saw that alizarin crimson color there, and I wanted to sort of make another ridge here. There's a ridge that really comes down from here, this area, down that way, and it makes a distinct mark here, so it does definitely show another plane of mountains in front of that one behind it. Okay, so that, and this is the darker one. All right, let me thanks, Bill. Appreciate your comments. I've been a lot of years trying to develop some of my own style. I do try to copy a lot of other painters' work and techniques if I learn them, but it's really kind of fun to take something somebody else has done, another technique, and try to apply it in my own work. All right, this is sort of vertical stuff here. This is all, it's got more of this other color in it actually. I'm going to see if I can pick this up. All right, what to do next here? All right, we have a very low horizon line. Actually, our horizon line's really down about here somewhere. So we would have a lot of sky in this for sure. Let me see if I can get a color that goes in here that has some yellows in it and some midnight black. It looks a little bit greenish to me. May not be green, but throw some of these things in here. This is the green. It's going to start tying some of the foreground to the background. Again, I'm going to go back and get my fan brush and try to maybe make that a little smoother. There is a road back there. I'm not going to put that road in, I don't think. It's really too, it would be too much to try to get it to fit in and make it look like something. It's, okay, I've got trees in here, a lot of this, and then this area here below, it starts turning more orange. I need to get some of this alizarin probably, and my yellow, my ochre, and see if I can start finding this color. Yeah, so I'm putting that green in there that's sort of tying these together, and I want this bank here, I want this to look like a bank along, I think there's a road that runs along here. Karen had said they were at the top of the mountain when they took this photo, so it is, they are up in some elevation, but there is a road I think that runs right along the bottom of the screen here. And so I don't know if I'm doing it justice or not, since I have never been there, but I'm hoping the color change is not too dramatic to the original photo. But I want to just get this underpainting on, get the all of this stuff in, and a mixture of the green. You see, I made green. I made a olive green out of midnight black and yellow ochre. It's another tip I could leave with you, that people don't realize how you can use a black color and mix it with a yellow color and get green. Works very well. If you don't have any green in your palette, but you got yellow and black, you can make an olive green. And if you want to lighten it up, you put a little more white in it, or water if you're doing watercolor painting. Okay, so I've got a bunch of stuff here. I can put in some foreground now. I've got a little bit of this green area in the background. What I don't have is a distinct line here. Let's see, this kind of goes away. I need a more distinct line right here to show this foreground plateau here, where these trees are, where this turns down. I guess you can see it pretty well. I was thinking it wasn't strong enough, but maybe it is. To get away from that background area. What's here? Okay. All right, so now I have a lot of soft stuff going on down here. It's heavier in the background. Usually when things come forward, they get darker or more distinct in color, and they get sharper. They don't get duller. I haven't. This is my bristle fan brush. Lindy, she wanted to know if I was using that small brush on the foliage back here. I can go back and soften it even more, but this is just softened from using the original bristle brush, Bob Ross bristle brush. If I go in here with this kind of a brush, now I can start making this even softer, so that it even looks more soft than it was. I'm just kind of playing this by ear. I've never used this kind of a brush. I've never used this technique before. What I want to do is get these colors to sort of blend so we have a mixture of the colors in the background and the foreground showing up. Nice shadow over here. So that shadow, if you see the shadow here, it's making that look more rounded, which is what I'm trying to do with it. I want it to look more rounded, and this shadow on this side does that. This is darker down here actually than I actually have it. Let me see if I can make it a little darker. I need to get a brush with some paint in it. This little fan brush is does not have a lot of paint. It's really just for soft blending. Okay, so now if I have this dark ridge across here, you can start to see I have another layer of land here that's in front of the one behind it, and I've got and it's really in shadow, so I want to sort of darken it down all through here so that it looks like it's a shadow of the mountain above it instead of another layer. It's not really another layer of mountains, it's a shadow of that mountain above it. I got it too light there. In here I got it too light, so I'm going to put more dark in there, see if I can bring it down and give it more of a shadow-like look. And I'll use this soft bristle brush or soft brush to darken it some. I think that's looking more like a shadow coming this way, sun hitting there, a shadow there. So on the right side of these mountains, I want it to be darker generally, and I want it to be lighter on the left side. And I want these colors to sort of intermingle here, so we have a good mixture of colors from the foreground mixing with the background. Okay, so let's stop. I have not washed one brush out yet with turpentine or with my thinner here. I'm just using paper towel to wipe them and reusing the brush as it is and whatever colors in it. That's why I'm getting some of this mixture of colors in here, because I'm being stingy with washing out my brushes. This needs to be redder, I think, here. Maybe if I use some of this bright red, it's going to get too orange, I'm afraid. Let me test it here. Maybe that's getting closer to the color, actually. Okay. All right, let's see if we can put some of that color in here for the bank. All right, yeah, a little bright red with a little Indian yellow gives me a beautiful orange color, which is getting more like the color here. And I want these brush strokes. Why am I doing the brush strokes this way instead of back and forth? You make the brush strokes go the way the surface that you're painting. If I'm painting a wall or a incline that goes down from left to right like this, I want these brush strokes to follow as if I were painting that piece of dirt right there. It would be going like this. That's a Bob Ross used to call that the lay of the land. The lay of the land. So the brush strokes tell you, if you can see the brush strokes and you don't wash them out, that this is a cliff. At least the road, I think, is down here, and so the photo was taken up enough to be able to get these pictures in it, these mountains in it. All right, let me see. I'm going to step back. It's always good to step back and take a look from a little distance. When I get so close, I have trouble trying to make sure I don't I get things dark enough, or I get things in the right position. I think the positions are all right. I think the colors are now there. The darks and lights show the different planes or where the shadows are. And I think maybe I can start putting in some of these trees now in the foreground. And I'm going to use a filbert brush for that. A filbert brush is very good for putting in trees that, like these trees, stick up and they're stuck to this dirt below. And just soften some of this here a little bit so I don't have quite so many brush strokes floating around. I think the tone, the different values are going to help you think this is an angled plane here. Okay, so my filbert, I'm going to get a couple shades of green. Now this is where you can use your green. I have sap green in my palette, which is a standard Bob Ross color. And then I have 3 yellows and 2 blues and black. And I can make greens with all of those. I can make all kinds of colors of green. If I don't like the color, I can add a yellow, or I can add an ochre. I can make a color of ochre with sap green. I'm going to show you here. I've done this a few times before. Sap green and ochre give me this color. Sap green and cad yellow give me this brighter light green. Sap green and Indian yellow give me this color. Very similar to the ochre, except the yellow here is a brighter orange, I think. So you see I've got 3 colors of green there, and then if I add some blue to one of these, bring up the blue and sap green and maybe some Indian yellow, I start getting darker shades. You see that? So if I take some sap green and over here and add some maybe phthalo blue, and we get a different color. I got a big glob of green there. I don't need all that. This phthalo blue will make almost a black. And you saw me make an olive color a while ago using yellow ochre and midnight black. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 shades of green that I can use to paint these trees. And I'm going to start with the darkest first, and then we'll go lighter. So this tree here starts, and I'm not painting like I do the sky. I'm going to paint with the side of the brush. I've got this brush full of dark green, bluish green paint. I'm going to just touch it in here like this. Pick up some more darks, some more blue. And you just let the canvas take off whatever paint it will. And it leaves these beautiful ends on that paint, on the canvas, because it only takes off a little bit. And I can leave some air holes in there so that you have room for the birds to fly around. And this is a cool way to paint trees. You don't have to, these trees need to come down. They actually go down to this lower level here, lower area. So I'm making them bigger by bringing them down here. I'm going to change the color a little bit, pick up a slightly different color and put it in over here. Kind of push up and pull up, push up and pull up. Like this. Needs a few more darks in there, so you can always come back and pick up some of your dark blue, Prussian blue, put in some dark shadows in here to give the tree some body. If you can get 3 values in your trees, you will show 3-dimensionality. Okay, so we've got quite a few things going here. I want them to be darker at the bottom. They have to be darker at the bottom because we're going to blend the shadows into these. Down here, there's a lot of this scrub brush, a lot of these old bushes and things floating around over here. Just pick up some colors, ochre maybe, and It has to be darker than what's on the canvas right now. Otherwise you won't see it. So pick up a few browns. These things have some browns and oranges in them, different colors. There's a bunch of, probably even some more of this olive color here as we get further back. I want them to sort of fade off a little bit differently here in the back. I don't want them to be as strong as they are in the front, because this actually goes back this way if I'm reading the photograph right. So I can make them taper and make them go smaller by making them less bright. Putting a little, okay, so we've got different kinds of bushes here. I'm going to get some of this other color out. I think I've got too many greens in there already. That's probably enough. Maybe there's a few over here. Okay, I'm going to wash this brush out because I want to change my colors. How are we doing on time? 49 minutes. Oh, not too bad. All right, so let's get a dark sienna, alizarin crimson. Trying to get a color that looks sort of like this scrub brush, maybe a little ochre in there, I don't know. And we'll start putting a few more things here like this. These are things that are just kind of growing out of the ground. I don't want them to look all alike, but I want to now start getting some shadow in here. And so this is going to be my shadow color, because it's on this ground. Over here the same thing, get a little more the same shadow color. And notice how the shadows are going. I don't have them going vertically, I got them going at an angle. Because the sun is shining this way, that also tells you this is a hill that has some angle to it, right? So just by the brush stroke and the way the shadow falls, I'm telling you that this is an angled little cliff type thing here. Okay. What else we got? I think maybe this, I can put a little more of these ochre colors in here, maybe. Put a few. There's a lot of little bush-like things, dead bushes, I guess. Maybe I'm calling them spring, so maybe I'll put some flower-like type things in here on them, I'll brighten them up a little bit. That's not in the painting, not in the photograph, but I need some texture on this dirt here in front, because it really is the lay of the land here. So I'm just pulling up. Whatever's on this brush is what's coming off. So I'm giving it sort of a, I guess you'd call that a mottled look, mottled. All right, those trees kind of look like they're in a sort of they almost don't quite look out of place. I think I've got the color wrong on them. I probably need to come back and add a few more ochres maybe. So let's try a little of my ochre here and see if I can lighten them up just a touch. So they're not, I don't want them to be overbearing green. Those greens I made are really potent colors. And they will sort of take over your painting and take over the eye. When you stand back and look at this, I want these to sort of, I want you to see the dark colors, but I want you to see the depth in them. Stand back, see if I've got that. Yeah. It's a little brighter colors than are in the photo. But again, I think we're trying to paint a scene here that you can enjoy, and hopefully you can give this a try. Even if you're a watercolor painter, a line and wash painter, you can use this. You can use the sketch that I have on my website and put it on your paper and paint away. Just trying to pull these back together now so they don't look so disjointed or out of place. I think the shadows are pretty good for the most part. Okay. I don't know, you want to put some flowers in this thing? Let's see if we can get my flowers, got to be probably red or some color like that to make them stand out in the foreground here. I'm going to get some liquid thinner on my brush, bright red, put a little white in it, make it a little pinkish, and we'll see what happens when I start putting a few of these little pink dots around in here. Probably can't see it, it's not dark enough for you. But I want to throw some of these around. And we'll just have them sort of laying in there. You're probably going to have a hard time seeing it because it is pretty light, but throw a few more dots out here. So I can make this, hope I'm not destroying the look from the photographer's viewpoint, but I think I wanted to make it a little more springy than it originally looked. I don't know when this photo was taken, but by throwing a few colors in there like that, and then maybe coming back and putting a few more, maybe some yellow colors in here. Let's put a few yellows alongside them. We'll get some something that looks sort of spring-like. Lighten up the tree a little bit with some light, some highlights maybe. Don't want to overdo this, but I do want it to look like we have some things flowering out here along the edge of the desert here. And those should have some sort of something under them to connect them to the ground, whether they're a little something like this. All right, up close that looks good. I can see them up close. I don't have to see them from a long ways away, but sort of help tell the story of a spring painting. A couple of trunks in here might help. Got to get a darker color than that. My Van Dyke brown. Put a few things in there like this. Maybe some other little things kind of growing up here along the sides. Maybe some other. I'm overdoing it now. I need to go back and check. I think I need a little more shadow back in here in some areas to pull that together. It's a little too dark, but I want it to show that little ridge back there. This area here, we don't have too many ridges or anything going on. I'll just throw some other marks in there to kind of indicate the lay of the land, show this how this is, how these things are laying back here. Don't need too much, just something to show that indicate how that grass lays. All right, folks, I think you've been very patient to stick with me for an hour, and I'm going to get myself a color here and put my signature on this thing, probably in a dark green color, like right in here. Okay, there we go. All right. I think you can see that. I think the H is a little bit light. All right, so I think I'm going to call that finished, and I may touch it up a little bit after I stop broadcasting here, but I definitely want to whoops, get that off. I'll zoom back and say thank you again for watching, and thanks for tuning in. I hope you give this painting a try, whether you do it in oils or watercolors or line and wash watercolors. And I may try to do it again in line and wash. I don't know. That's really where it started. And I again want to thank Karen for letting me use this photo and try to paint this scene for you guys. And please check out my website, check out my Facebook page. Give me a like on this if you like it, and share it with your friends if you like my style. Don't forget to download the reference photos. They're all on my website, so you can download those and make sketches out of them. Use the sketch and take this painting on yourself. So that's how I like to do it. I hope you like the music from Antonio Romo. Check out his website, Facebook page. It's antonioromo.com. I usually have that in the comments below as well. And if you're having trouble getting your sketches to work on a canvas like this when you use liquid white, try this technique. Just get yourself a little bit of Liquitex Glazing Medium, and once you put your sketch on your canvas, paint it over with a glaze of Liquitex, let it dry for an hour or so, and you're ready to paint. So I think that worked pretty well. I was glad to see that happen. It's a nice technique that I was glad to learn. So until I see you again, I think that's all I want to say for now. So check me later. Maybe I'll see you again sometime here while we're all quarantined and staying at home. And I hope you stay safe and stay healthy. So long for now. Bye-bye.